Welcome to The Explainer. All right, let's get strapped in because today we're diving headfirst into one of the most passionate, maybe the most passionate debate in all of sports. Who is the greatest Formula One driver of all time? He was the best bloody driver. You know, that quote says it all, doesn't it? That's from the legendary Sir Stirling Moss, who, let's be honest, was one of the absolute best to ever get behind the wheel, even without a championship. And he's talking about his rival, Juan Manuel Fangio. It just captures that immense respect, that awe that these guys had for each other. And really, that's a huge part of this whole GOAT conversation.
But you know, this whole thing is way more complicated than it sounds. And here's the real challenge, right? We're trying to compare drivers from completely different worlds. I mean, a 1950s Maserati versus a modern Mercedes hybrid? They're practically different species of machine. So just looking at raw stats, well, it's a tricky place to start, and it definitely doesn't give you the full picture.
All right, so to give this thing some structure, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll set the stage for this ultimate F1 debate. Then, we'll look at the legends by the numbers. After that, we'll get into the art of greatness, followed by the titans of the modern era. And finally, we'll try to figure out what it all means for their unsettled legacy. All right, Section 1. The ultimate F1 debate. Let's set the stage for this battle of legends. So yeah, let's start right there. When we say the greatest, what are we actually talking about? What are the things that really define greatness in a sport this fast, this insane? See, to do this justice, you have to look at the whole package. It's not just about who's got the most wins or the most championships on paper. No, it's about how they won. It's about the raw, undeniable talent, their racecraft when the pressure was on, and, the impact they left on the sport itself long after they were gone. Okay, on to Section 2, Legends by the Numbers. This is the quantitative backbone of greatness. And look, let's get into the cold hard facts. We know numbers don't tell the whole story, but come on, they're the foundation, right? You can't have a GOAT argument without them. Okay, so take a look at this. This table is just fascinating. Right away, you see different kinds of dominance. You've got the two giants of the sport, Hamilton and Schumacher, both sitting on 7 titles. That's just sustained excellence year after year. Then your eye goes to Senna's pole positions. That just speaks to his raw one-lap speed. And then there's Max Verstappen, still racing, but his numbers already put him right in the middle of this legendary company. But the one number that just makes you stop and stare is Fangio's win percentage. Seriously, just let that sink in for a second. 47.1%. Juan Manuel Fangio won almost half of every single championship race he ever started. Yeah, sure, there were fewer races back then, but this was also an era of insane danger and cars that could break down at any second. So for him to be more likely to win than to lose every time he got in the car, that's just staggering. It's a record that I think most people agree will literally never be broken. And this chart, wow, it really puts the sheer volume of wins from the modern guys into perspective. I mean, Michael Schumacher set a bar that so many of us thought was completely untouchable. And then along comes Lewis Hamilton, and he just smashes right past it. It's a different kind of dominance for sure. You have longer seasons now, incredibly reliable cars, and that allows for these just staggering career totals that really set them in a league of their own. All right, Section 3, the art of greatness, going beyond the statistics. Because as any real F1 fan knows, this isn't just about spreadsheets and numbers. Greatness is about style, it's about skill, and it's about those moments of just pure genius that you can't measure with a statistic. And there is no better example of this art than the legendary rivalry between Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna. You had Prost, the professor, who was all about smooth, calculated, almost surgical precision. His whole philosophy was basically win at the slowest possible speed. And then you had Senna, who was just magic, pure instinct, pure aggression, driving on the absolute ragged edge all the time. They were complete polar opposites, and yet both of them were unbelievably effective, winning multiple world championships. And you can see Senna's genius in the records he holds. I mean, 6 wins at Monaco? The guy was the undisputed king of Monaco for a reason. That's a track that demands absolute perfection. There's zero room for error. And then there was the rain. Oh man, when it rained, that's when he was truly in a league of his own. The rain is the great equalizer, it takes the car's advantage away, and it's all about pure driver skill. And in the wet, nobody could touch him. These aren't just numbers, They're proof of a legendary level of car control. All of this stuff, Prost's precision, Senna's aggression, it all falls under this one key idea, racecraft. And that's the real art, right?
It's that almost supernatural ability to go wheel to wheel with someone, to see a gap that isn't really there, to defend your position perfectly, to be thinking 3 corners ahead of everyone else. See, the greatest drivers weren't just fast, they were brilliant racers.
Okay, let's move on to section 4, the modern era's titans. This is where we talk about redefining dominance because, wow, the modern era has completely rewritten the record books.
So in this modern era we've been talking about, with the longer seasons and cars that are just unbelievably reliable, one name now stands above everyone else in the history books, and that's Sir Lewis Hamilton. He has totally redefined what a dominant career even looks like.
So let's just run through it. First, the big one, 7 world championships. He climbed to the very top of the mountain and tied Michael Schumacher's record, a record that, honestly, many of us thought would never, ever be touched. And then he just kept going. He didn't just beat Schumacher's record of 91 wins, he blew right past it, becoming the first and so far only driver in history to win over 100 Grands Prix. That just sets a completely new standard for what victory even means in the sport.
And then there's this. Over 200 podium finishes. This number right here, this is all about his incredible, relentless consistency over his entire career. Just an unbelievable ability to deliver top results weekend after weekend, more than any other driver ever. So that brings us to our final section, an unsettled legacy, the final verdict. After looking at all of this, the crazy stats, the different styles, the incredible stories, where does that leave us? What's the final answer to the big debate? Well, here's the thing. The answer really just depends on what you value most, right? Is it the sheer weight of the record books, where Lewis Hamilton stands on top? Is it the mind-bending efficiency of Fangio's win rate? Or is it that raw, transcendent talent you saw in someone like Ayrton Senna? And that right there is why this conversation will never, ever end. Because at the end of the day, greatness isn't just one thing. It's this incredible mix of statistical dominance, a skill level that defines an entire era, and an impact that changes the sport forever. And every single one of these drivers had that. They all grabbed their era by the scruff of the neck and made it their own. And that's why they all have a permanent place in the pantheon of F1. So, we've laid out all the evidence for you. We've looked at the numbers, we've talked about the art of racecraft, and now the final, and let's be honest, the most important question is for you. After all of this, who is your F1 GOAT?